We've got some post-spring insider nuggets about the freshman early enrollees in the Longhorns' top-ranked recruiting class. Who stood out? We'll tell you on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Come in, you are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We've got an interesting and slightly disappointing nugget about CJ Baxter we'll save for later in the show, but we'll start off with a few insider notes on Texas's #1 recruiting class and these early enrollees who just wrapped up their first spring at the University of Texas. I think everybody knows by now, Texas had the #1 class in the country in 2025. 22 of the 25 signees were on campus this spring. 21 of those 22 were full participants in spring football. Jonah Williams was the other one. He, of course, is still playing baseball. By the way, rocking the SEC baseball champions hat with the, or is it? There it is, the Longhorn logo on the side. Y'all know what it is. We've heard a lot about these freshmen in football, and we've talked a lot about these freshmen in football. Now we've got even more intel about the early enrollees. Our friends at On Texas Football have given the scoop on 10 Longhorns who have made an impact in their first few months on campus. So we'll do 1 through 5 in this segment. We'll do 6 through 10 in our next segment. And again, some insider intel on some standout early enrollees. All right. I don't know why I added like 3 extra syllables to enrollees, but here we go. #1 and #2. We'll lump these two together since they play the same position. Texas defensive tackles Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma. According to On Texas Football, the staff is really high on both of them. Sharma has been described as a guy with a, quote, very high ceiling, end quote. Don't sleep on these two. Everybody's been talking about Justice Terry, the 5-star, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to take any shots at Justice Terry. I saw a picture of him earlier today. I mean, the guy looks like a man amongst boys. It's crazy that a dude at his age is that size and is that grown. I think he's going to be a problem for opposing teams for the entirety of his Texas career. You should talk about him, but don't sleep on Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma. Those guys were both 4-star recruits. They were top 20 defensive linemen in this class. They had offers from everywhere. They were big gets for Texas at the time. And I think, again, early on in their college careers, those guys have proven to be big-time additions to this Texas roster. And you can never have too many defensive linemen. I don't know how much Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma are going to play this year because Texas went out and got 5 portal defensive linemen. But I think we'll see these guys early in the year, especially weeks 2 through 4. San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston, 3 games that Texas should win pretty easily. 3 games where Steve Sarkisian should get a lot of his guys some playing time. I think you're going to see a lot of freshmen get on the field for the first 3 home games of 2025. And I think Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma will be getting plenty of snaps, especially because it's going to be red hot in the month of September here in Austin. You're going to need to rotate those big bodies. I think based on the early returns, Sark and Kenny Baker and Pete Kwiatkowski and the rest of this coaching staff, they feel pretty good about those freshmen early enrollee defensive tackles. And I think those guys are going to see the field and they'll get the opportunity to compete for more playing time as the year progresses. So again, Justice Terry, stud, 5-star, huge get for Texas, stealing him away from Georgia at the last second. But Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma, there's a reason so many teams around the country wanted those 2 guys. There's a reason why Texas made it such a point of emphasis to get those guys. Those are going to be big-time players for the Longhorns. #3, again, that was 1 and 2 lumped together. #3, James Simon. Quote, don't sleep on James Simon. He was very impressive this spring, a true 3-down guy, end quote. That, of course, from On Texas Football. This Texas running back room is stacked, man. You've got Quintravion Wisner, the lone returning 1,000-yard rusher in the SEC. You've got CJ Baxter. You've got Jarrett Gibson, who showed a lot in his first year on campus. You've got Christian Clark coming off of that torn Achilles. And then, of course, the two early enrollee freshmen, James Simon and Ricky Stewart. Sounds like James Simon a little bit ahead of Stewart right now. Sounds like Simon was the more impressive back in the spring. But, man, I really feel like Texas has 4, maybe 5, and if Ricky Stewart comes along, maybe even 6 Power 4 level running backs. I'm not saying like down the road in 2 or 3 years. I'm saying like right now, Texas might have 4 or 5 guys that are good enough to be starters on Power 4 teams around the country. I don't know if there's any other team in college football that can say that. This running back room is loaded. We'll see what Chad Scott can do with these guys. Obviously, no more Tashard Choice as this team's running back coach, but Tashard left a loaded room, and I think Texas is going to have a number of different options. They're not going to be in a spot like they were last year. You knock on wood that the injury bug doesn't hit that room or any room again in 2025. But Texas, 9 days before the season started, they had to go get Velton Gardner away from SMU just to make sure they had enough bodies who were healthy enough to play running back. Texas isn't in that spot again. I don't think they'll be in that spot anytime soon. They've recruited well. They've developed well. Of course, Texas has had 5 tailbacks drafted in the last 3 NFL drafts. I think that number is only going to continue to increase over these next few seasons. And James Simon, again, I don't know if he'll play that much against Ohio State. I don't know if he'll play at all against Ohio State. But weeks 2 through 4, you'd like to think he's going to get the opportunity to shine. And Steve Sarkisian runs a meritocracy here. He doesn't care if you're a true freshman. If you're a stud, you're going to get on the field. If you're better than the guys around you, you're going to get on the field. And look at Colin Simmons last year. Hell, look at CJ Baxter, his freshman year. That guy actually started his first collegiate game ahead of Jonathan Brooks. Now, that was probably the wrong decision, considering how good Jonathan Brooks was in 2023. Ended up being the first running back picked in that following NFL draft. But still, the point is, if you're good enough, doesn't matter your class. Sark is going to get you on the field. And if James Simon is as good as some of the insiders are saying he is, then he could crack that very deep running back rotation in his first year on the 40. Number 4, Nick Brooks. According to On Texas Football, a source they talked to called Nick Brooks, quote, a future first-round pick, end quote. Unfortunately, the first things you see when you Google Nick Brooks' name are articles about his recent arrest. That obviously wasn't great. Not the ideal start to his college career. But on the field, it sounds like Nick Brooks has done everything right. And you talk about an NFL guy, about 6'7", 353. Yeah, I think any NFL team would sign up for that as their left tackle. Don't you? Obviously, you got to have the athleticism to move that big frame. It sounds like Nick Brooks does already. And we've talked about this a couple of different times here on Locked On Longhorns. It sounds like right now Nick Brooks is this team's number 2 left tackle. Trevor Goosby is your starter there. You hope he has a great season. And look, I think Trevor Goosby has a chance to be a first-round pick next year. He could be one and done as a starter for Texas. If he's as good as he showed us down the stretch last year, then he's off to the NFL, which means Nick Brooks could be your starting left tackle in his true sophomore season in 2026. Obviously, if he's number 2 on the depth chart, he is one play away from being forced into action. So I love what I've heard about Nick Brooks. Again, on the field. The off-the-field stuff, stay away from driving on 6th Street at 2 or 3 in the morning, Nick. Be a little smarter than that. Freshman moment. He'll learn from it. He'll get better. But again, on the field, this guy has seemingly done everything right. Every insider site and every person I've talked to behind the scenes has echoed those similar sentiments of Nick Brooks making a big-time impact in his first few months on campus. He's a big body, so you can't miss him, but it sounds like he's a big-time player as well. Number 5, as we wrap up our first segment here, Insider Nuggets, about 10 true freshmen on this Texas football roster. Lance Jackson. Lance Jackson was a 5-star. Lance Jackson, I believe, was the 21st or 22nd player in the 24/7 composite rankings this year. So calling him underrated, it feels a bit ridiculous considering how highly rated he was. I think Lance Jackson was still underrated. I think this guy is going to be a monster. I'm not saying he's going to have a Colin Simmons-like freshman year, but I think he's going to play. And I get it. You've got Colin Simmons. You've got Ethan Burke, Colton Vasek, Trey Moore, Brad Spence. There are a lot of dudes in that Texas edge room coming back this coming season. I think Lance Jackson is going to force his way on the field. Here's the On Texas Football nugget. Quote, the size and athleticism combo is one thing, but he's answered the bell in terms of physicality. Justice Terry's seam is similar, and Texas loves him, but it's not the same in terms of NFL combine testing numbers as Jackson, end quote. Speaking of combine, speaking of the NFL, Lance Jackson's brother, Landon, who played at Arkansas, was just picked by the Buffalo Bills in the third round of this year's draft. I love the genes, man. NFL bloodlines, brothers, cousins, parents, grandparents. If you've got a relative that has played high-level college football and more importantly played NFL football, I'm going to believe that you've got a shot to do the exact same thing. Landon was a stud at Arkansas. I think Lance is going to be the same, maybe even better at Texas. I expect this dude to make an impact from day one. A freak athlete, played both ways in high school, was a multi-sport star in Texarkana. Again, this dude may be underrated, even as a 5-star, even as a top 25 player in his class. I don't know if there are going to be 19, 20, 21 players better than Lance Jackson in this 2025 cycle. This dude is a monster, and by all accounts, he has showcased that in his short time on campus. All right, there's 5. I promised y'all 10 names. We've only gone through 5. We'll get to the rest of the list of early enrollee freshmen who have stood out in spring ball coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for today's episode sponsor. Shout out to our friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Game 1 of the Western Conference Final last night. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. Every night is delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it so easy to get in the game and to stay in the game. If you don't get your bets in before tip-off, have no fear. FanDuel has live in-game betting, player props, same-game parlays, all of those things to where, yeah, you can get the stuff in before the game, but even after the ball is tipped, you have more ways to win than ever before. And how could a $200 in bonus bets add to your excitement? That's right. Our friends at FanDuel are giving out $200 in bonus bets if you make an account and you place a $5 bet. If that bet wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets, no questions asked. Again, if you're a new customer, head over to FanDuel.com. You place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, you are going to get $200 in bonus bets just like that to use on the NBA playoffs, the NHL, so much more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. 5 more notes on 5 more Texas freshmen following the conclusion of spring practice. Again, thanks to our friends at On Texas Football for this article. Number 6, Cade Phillips, another 5-star, the corner that Texas brought in. According to On Texas Football, Cade Phillips, quote, possesses high NFL draft pick potential, end quote. Top 30 player in the country. The question about Cade Phillips is when does he make this impact? I think he's going to make an impact during his college career, but can he crack the defensive back rotation as a true freshman? Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo feel like your 2 starting outside corners. Manny Muhammad's a lock. Jalen Gilbo trying to do what Jahdae Barron did and go from star to outside corner. Worked pretty well for Jahdae Barron, winning a Thorpe, becoming a first-round pick. Gilbo's hoping lightning can strike twice in the same place. I think we all are. But those are your 2 starters on the outside, more than likely. After them, Kobe Black, Warren Robeson, not a lot of proven commodities there. Those guys, highly touted recruits. Those guys have been here for a couple of years, so they've got the leg up, you would think, on the true freshman Cade Phillips. But I think there's a chance for Cade Phillips to compete in fall camp. Again, I don't expect him to be a week 1 starter. I don't know how much we'll see him in the shoe, but he's going to get opportunities in fall camp. You would think he's going to get some opportunities in the month of September. And if one of those older guys or if there's an injury somewhere in the Texas cornerback room, and one of those older guys doesn't quite get the job done, I should probably finish my sentence there, then I think Cade Phillips can get some PT early on. So the staff's high on him. Again, it just feels like a matter of when, not if, he makes an impact on the 40 acres. We'll go to another defensive back for number 7. How about Grayson Littleton? Cornerback / nickel, kind of playing both. I think he got more run at the star position, a.k.a. the nickel position, during his first spring. Here's the quote from OTF. Quote, Grayson Littleton has high-end quickness and closing speed that was seen on the field in high school, and it was known when he signed with Texas, but his ability to learn and take it to the next rep and on the field early on really impressed. End quote. 4-star, 65th ranked player in the nation, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. Again, some questions in the secondary. There's no questions about the talent. It's super talented, but there aren't a ton of proven guys in the 2 deep because you lost a few to the NFL. You look at that nickel position, Derek Williams Jr., we'll see if he's there. We'll see if he's more at safety. The big question with him is he fully recovered from that knee injury he suffered in the Oklahoma win last year? Jelani McDonald, he's been playing some safety as well. Is he nickel still? Is he safety now? Where do those guys fit in? You've got Wardell Mack. You've got Ryan Niblett switching from offense to defense. There are bodies there, but not a ton of proven commodities. And again, if Derek Williams Jr. is not fully right this year, I hope he is, then maybe a chance for Grayson Littleton to crack the rotation early on. Point is, Texas has recruited incredibly well in the secondary. They're going to be set there for a while. And Grayson Littleton and Cade Phillips, obviously a big part of the future plans for Dwayne Akina and company on the back end. Number 8, let's go back to offense. KJ Lacey, the quarterback take for the Horns in this cycle. Quote, ability to learn quickly, react quickly, and see the field with much bigger linemen in his peripheral. Impressed a lot of people. End quote. Quarterback room is interesting. The battle for QB2 behind Arch Manning probably doesn't include the true freshman, KJ Lacey. Feels like it's Trey Owens or the Troy transfer, Matthew Caldwell, who would be first off the bench for Texas this fall. But you wonder what the future of the QB room looks like, right? If Arch Manning is one and done as a starter, we hope that's not the case, but I think there's at least a possibility of that happening. We've talked about that not being super likely, but you got to at least consider it. And the coaching staff is at least considering it. Hell, Steve Sarkisian said a couple of weeks ago that he hopes Arch has a tough decision to make following 2025, because that would mean, Arch has an amazing year and Texas is back in the college football playoff and hopefully competing for a national title. What if Arch does leave after this year? What's the QB room? Is it Trey Owens for sure? Caldwell only has 1 year of eligibility, so he's not the long-term answer. But that Trey Owens, KJ Lacey battle that will go on in fall camp and it will go on through the season, and it could be the thing that we're all watching the most next spring. That's the bigger KJ Lacey storyline for me than anything realistically that he's going to do on the field in 2025. He might play some, but he could be the 3rd or 4th guy for Texas on the depth chart this year. So if he's playing a lot, then something has gone horrifically wrong. No offense, KJ. Number 9, 2 more here. Tight end Amari Winston on Texas Football says, quote, ball skills in the passing game, and he's a willing physical blocker in the run game, end quote. Again, we've talked about him a few times, and Sark has openly talked about Amari Winston. Like, when Sark has been asked, I guess when he was asked during the spring about a couple of players who were standing out, he unprovoked mentioned Amari Winston multiple times. It wasn't like, hey, how's Amari doing? It was like, hey, give us a couple of players who are impressing you. And Sark would talk about Amari Winston. A 3-star outside of the top 600 in this class. I think if Amari Winston was 3 to 4 inches taller, he would have been a top 150 to 200 player in this cycle. I don't want to go ridiculous and say, oh, he would have been a 5-star. But he's a tight end who's like 6'1", maybe 6'1.5", which is not big at all. Matter of fact, that's small for a tight end, especially at this level of college football. But, man, we have heard so much about Winston's ability. Like, the staff kind of thought he was just going to be an H-back developmental piece. But it sounds like he could actually be a tight end. He can go out and run routes. He can get open. He's got soft hands. He can make plays in the passing game. And even though he's a bit short, he's still 240, 245. So he's, built enough to make some blocks, and seems like he's a willing blocker in the run game too. That's what we just said. Like, I don't know what to expect from Winston in year one. Maybe it's not much. It sounds like this guy could be the next 3-star find for Steve Sarkisian and this coaching staff. We touched on a few of those names earlier this week. Don't sleep on Amari Winston. Again, we'll see if it's this year or in 2026 and beyond. But I think the first time we've talked about him on this show, and that's with good reason. Last but not least, Zealous Hicks, the safety, did suffer a minor hamstring issue in the middle of spring ball that limited him for a part of spring practice, but On Texas Football says he was impressing before that tweak. The Texas safety room is loaded. Michael Taft being back, Jelani McDonald, Derek Williams, Jonah Williams, obviously playing baseball right now. We see the type of athlete he is for Jim Schlossnagle. You got Jordan Johnson-Rebel. You got Xavier Filsaime, a 5-star last year. I mean, it's good now. It's good for the future. Safety room is incredibly good. And Hicks is a 4-star from Georgia. Texas has had some success recruiting that state lately, hoping for more in 2026. There are some great players there, including a couple of 5-star linebackers that the Horns are very interested in. But Zealous Hicks, 6'2", 190, big body, track star in high school, so he's got some speed. He can hit as well. Another one of those guys that will see the field weeks 2 through 4. Probably, just considering how many good safeties there are right now, I don't know if Hicks is going to be a major contributor in year one, but like hearing that he turned some heads this spring. So there you go. 10 insider nuggets on 10 early enrollee freshmen. The insiders are always talking. Yeah, spring football ended a few weeks ago, but some more takeaways from what Texas was able to pull off in the spring. All right, we've got one segment left on today's show. Tease this at the start. It's an interesting and it's a slightly saddening, disappointing, maybe even frustrating post from our friends at Inside Texas regarding the status of CJ Baxter. Is it time to maybe temper our expectations for the former 5-star in 2025? We will talk about it up next, right here on Locked On Longhorns. Back here on Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. So I was scavenging the insider sites looking for a final segment for today's show. And our friends at Inside Texas posted a quick Q&A thread opening up a forum to Longhorn fans. Somebody asked about CJ Baxter. How's he coming along after tearing his ACL and a couple of other CLs in fall camp in 2024? And here's what IT wrote. Quote, on Baxter, he's expected to return to practice in August and be available for the opener. At this time, IT doesn't know what to expect from him as far as depth chart or production for the season. We will need practice intel. For reference, for guys coming off injury, we think it's likely Christian Clark will make a bigger impact this season. End quote. It's the last sentence that sticks out. We know Baxter didn't do much in the spring, and there isn't any real practice until the end of July or August, whenever fall camp starts. No official date on that just yet. So all of that stuff checks out. I like hearing that CJ Baxter is expected to return to practice in August. I like hearing that he's likely going to be available for the season opener on August 30th. It's great news. I don't like hearing that it's more likely that Christian Clark will make a bigger impact this season than CJ Baxter will. No shot at Christian. Excited about him. Great story. Another guy who was lost for the season because of an injury he suffered last fall, the torn Achilles. Amazing that he played in the spring. So the fact that he was able to practice and be pretty much a full participant in spring ball and CJ Baxter wasn't tells you that Clark is obviously further along in his rehab. But CJ Baxter, the former number 1 running back in the country, it's a guy who started over Jonathan Brooks in his first career collegiate game. 659 yards, 5 touchdowns in his true freshman year. Also had 24 catches for Texas in 2023. But we've seen it. We don't know what Christian Clark is because he hasn't played a snap of college football at Texas. We know what CJ Baxter is. We've seen the skill. We've seen the burst. We've seen the everything. He was projected to be one of the best tailbacks in the SEC before the injury last year. So I'm thinking, all right, I don't know what to expect from him, but with the full year to rehab and recover from that knee injury, I'm thinking this dude is going to be a big piece for the Longhorn offense in 2025. Maybe I was overly optimistic about that. I was thinking Baxter would be damn near close to 100% for that Ohio State game, and that might not be the case. You don't want to rush him back. You don't want to be stupid. We saw what happened to Jonathan Brooks, right? The Panthers rushed him back a little bit. He tore the same ACL, and now he's got to miss another season of his NFL career, which absolutely sucks. So you want to be smart with CJ Baxter. Obviously, the Ohio State game is important, but with the expanded playoff, number one, you can win that game without CJ. Number two, if you lose that game, your season is not done. So you don't want to be reckless with how you handle this thing. But that was a bit shocking to read. It's more likely that Christian Clark makes a bigger impact this season than CJ Baxter does. Like, Trey Wisner is clearly the number one. I thought CJ Baxter was kind of clearly the number two. And I was thinking, hey, maybe he could retake the number one spot, ludicrous, if he looked like the guy he was before the injury. But now he's below Clark. Like, that means he's below Wisner. That means he's below Jarrett Gibson. That means he's below Clark. That means he's, the number 4 running back on this team? I wonder, love to get some more details from inside Texas, and I'm going to do a little bit more digging on this. But I wonder if this is just a start of the year thing or if this is an entire season thing where, we just should really temper our expectations for CJ Baxter. I still think this Texas run game can be really good, even if Baxter isn't a huge piece. But why I feel like Texas has the deepest running back room in the country, it's the depth. And Baxter's a huge part of that. And former number 1 running back recruit in America coming off the bench behind 1,000-yard guy in Trey Wisner, and you've got those other names there as well. Like, that's loaded. That's stacked. That's deep. That's elite. It's everything you want right there. It can still be really great if Baxter's not there. But, man, I was hoping, and I still am hoping, that Baxter is further along in his recovery and will be a major player for Texas this fall. So we'll find out. Again, I don't want to act like the sky is falling. It's an insider report from May 21st. Maybe over the summer, CJ Baxter gets a hell of a lot healthier. And when fall camp rolls around, he looks like a monster. He looks like a guy who can compete with Trey Wisner as the team leader in carries this year. That'd be great, because competition brings out the best in everybody. I think Wisner's going to have a great year. If you've got that 1-2 punch with Jarrett Gibson there as well, then again, that's an embarrassment of riches for the Horns run game. Something to monitor for sure with what happens with CJ Baxter. All right, y'all comment below with your thoughts. Am I overreacting? Am I reading too much into this? Do you care? Do you think the Texas run game is fine without CJ being 100%? Comment below with your thoughts. That's going to do it for today's episode. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you made it this far, please like, please subscribe, please rate 5 stars, please leave a comment. All of those great things. Really do appreciate you guys making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, so you can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes going on in the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Plenty of diamond sports tomorrow. Texas baseball will open up SEC tournament play. We've got Texas softball opening up the Super Regional tomorrow as well. So we'll talk about those, and we'll talk more Longhorn football. Never a dull moment on the 40 acres. We've got you covered here on Locked On Longhorns. But that's going to do it for today. Again, really appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.